Welcome to this CloudPCR demo. We're about to cover a lot of topics, but before we start, let me tell you the 3 things that separate us from other PCR companies. Number 1, ease of use. Number 2, customizability. Number 3, customer service. Let me give you some examples. Ease of use. Most of our agencies go live within a matter of days, and in short order, they're filling out NEMSIS charts in 5 minutes. Customizability. Our platform can easily be customized for any agency, no matter the type. And last but not least, industry-leading customer service. We employ EMTs and paramedics from the industry to be assigned to customers from the beginning. What that means is you get one person to talk to for all your needs, who knows your name and what you care about. Let's sign in. Right now, the software installing into the device is for offline use. What that means is, if you don't have the internet, you don't have Google, you can't go to YouTube, but you can go to CloudPCR's login screen and start charting patient data. This makes it easy to do your job in rural areas or hospitals where you don't get internet service. This is the landing page. Let me give you a quick tour. Do you see the navigation on the left? You're the global admin on this account, so you're going to see everything. My PCRs is where we're at now. It's like the main page for the platform. This is where you'll be able to see the PCRs for only this logged-in user. QA/QI is where QA admins can QA PCRs and run reports. Administration is where software admins can manage the actual software, such as adding users and customizing the platform for your agency. Next, let's look at another feature that supports our leading customer service. See that blue bubble in the lower right? That's our 24/7 help chat. Anyone, whether they're an admin or crew member, can message there. This makes it easy to get on-demand training or technical support. Now, let's take a look at the actual PCR. Just like the My PCRs page, the navigation is on your left. Another thing that makes us easy to use is that you're always going to be able to see the navigation. You're not going to get stuck in subpages, get lost, and have to click the back button and lose your data. The other thing is that this is the same application on every device. Some PCR platforms only work with Windows or iOS, but with our platform, it doesn't matter if it's a 10-year-old PC at base, an inexpensive rugged Chromebook, which is this view, or an iPad or Android tablet, which is this view. You're going to use the same application with all the same features and capabilities. This makes CloudPCR easier for you to deploy and easy for your crews to learn. Now, do you see these black question marks everywhere? Click on those to find a description of what the field is looking for. Let me show you another feature that makes CloudPCR easy to use. Do you see the Help for this page button in the upper right? So, instead of logging into another website, just click on that button, and our help articles and videos will be filtered depending on what page you're on in our platform. Now, let's get into the actual fields. See this disposition/outcome dropdown? You should think of these as different forms for different patient outcomes. Depending on what you choose here, it will change the rest of the form. For instance, if you pick a canceled call, the timeline tab where you log treatment will disappear. This makes charting for different call types in CloudPCR easy. Admins have the ability to edit these individual forms, but we can cover that when we get to the administration panel. Oh yeah, while we're on the Incidents tab, I should tell you, if you had a CAD integration, a lot of this information would already be pre-populated. Now, let me show you 2 more features that make CloudPCR easy to use. Addresses come up a number of times, and we have a few different ways to make them easier to input. First is the Quick Address Lookup. There's a list in the platform that you manage where you can add your frequent hospitals or facilities. All you have to do is search for the name and click on it to input the address. Second is Google Location Search. Do you know how you can type in an address on your phone and it autofills the rest after typing the first few characters? Okay, watch this. As you can see, we're using the same technology in our PCR. Now, let's take a look at the Times section. Entering in times and dates in a PCR can be challenging. Incident date is defaulted to the date the chart is created. You can use these clock icons to enter the current time. The time fields also accept 4-digit number entry. Also, let me show you what happens when I type in 0100. See how it's tracking the date change after midnight? This makes it easy to keep all your dates and times straight. Now let's look at the mileage section. There are 2 ways to track load mileage. The first way is to do it manually by adding the on-scene and destination vehicle mileage readings. And the load mileage will auto-calculate. The second way is to use our auto load mileage. Auto load mileage takes the entered scene address and the entered destination address. See that button that says Calculate Load Mileage? When I click that, it's going to hit the Google Maps API and return the proper mileage between the on-scene and destination addresses. Ready? See how easy that is to use? So, that wraps up the Incident tab. Now we're going to move to the Patient tab. But first, see that magnifying glass in the upper right? The hardest part of new PCR software is learning where everything is. This is a field search, where you can search specific fields when you need them. See what it's doing here? This also has what we call a soft search. So, if I type in patient, it'll give me all the fields relating to the patient. See that? Wouldn't you feel pretty confident in being able to find everything you need now? Now, watch what happens when I click on a field. See how it changed the page and highlighted what I was looking for? Pretty cool, right? Okay, now we're on the Patient tab. Hey, do you have any patients around town that you end up seeing every week or month or so? For those patients, you can use Previous Patient Search to autofill the patient information. There are 2 ways to do this. If you know the patient's Social Security number, just enter it and it will autofill the patient information based on the last time you treated them. If you don't know the patient's Social Security number, you can click this button at the top and search for them by name, date of birth, or home address, and it'll let you choose from a number of recent trips to autofill from. Did you see how that worked? This is one of the features that allows us to chart in 5 minutes. While we're on the topic of previous patients, we also have a feature called Previous Patient Alerts, where crews can leave notes about an aggressive dog, DNR, or facility door codes. These alerts will show up in an alert dialog box on the previous patient fill or opening of the chart. Let me show you another feature that makes us easy to use. This one is called IntelliSearch, and I'm going to jump over here to patient history to demonstrate it. Watch what happens when I type ALZ. Do you see how Alzheimer's comes right up there and how I was able to enter that in 4 keystrokes? With IntelliSearch, any dropdown in our platform with more than 50 options becomes an intelligent search dropdown. It also has multi-select, so watch me keep going. Type in HYP for hypertension. See that? This may seem like a small detail, but imagine filling out fields like allergies, medications, procedures, pain location, reason for transport, and so on. This is another ease-of-use feature that allows us to chart in 5 minutes. Now that we've talked about charting patient information, let's look at how we chart treatments and vitals. This is the Timeline tab. On this tab, you can see all the things that happened on a call in a timeline. This is where you would enter in all your medications, procedures, exams, and 12 lead information if you had the integration. As you can see, we have one vital charted here already. If you're on a call where you have to chart a vital every 10 to 15 minutes, you can use this button here to start a new vital based on an old vital. See how everything in this vital is based on the first one? All you need to do is update the time and the vitals as necessary and click Save. Yet another CloudPCR feature that makes us easy to use. Hey, what do you think about writing narratives? Let's jump over to the Narrative tab. This is the Narrative tab. There are 3 ways to fill out narratives in CloudPCR. The first is typing it out manually. But let's say you forget the patient's age. You can pull in details from the PCR without changing pages. Just type 2 open curly brackets, and that will open another soft field search, where you search for age and autofill from your existing chart information. The second way to fill out narratives is by speech to text. You can use Google Assistant, Siri, or Cortana to write your narratives for you, like the doctors on a TV show. The third way you can fill out narratives is by the narrative generator. The narrative generator allows your agency to have multiple pre-typed custom narratives that autofill with the information you already charted in the form. We call those narrative templates. As you can see here, this narrative template automatically reported the unit number and dispatch time from the PCR in this pre-typed narrative. That was 3 more features that made CloudPCR easy to use, all based on writing narratives. Did you know that you can attach files to a PCR in CloudPCR? Let's head over to the Documents tab. See the Upload button? You can attach any file type there. If you're on a tablet, you can launch the camera by clicking in the drag and drop box and take pictures of things like vehicle accidents, patient driver's licenses, or any paperwork handed to you during the call. Yet another feature that makes CloudPCR easy to use. Do you have any loose paper forms that you carry around with you, perhaps a medication or refusal form? We can digitize that and have it available in your custom forms. See the custom form section below Files? CloudPCR custom forms look like PDFs with fillable boxes. The cool thing is, all the information that you've already provided in the PCR can be autofilled upon opening the custom form. See how some of the fields are already filled out? Another feature that makes CloudPCR easy to use. Next is the Signatures tab. You can have signatures in here for any reason. You can even sign your provider signature automatically with a saved signature under your user account. Another feature of CloudPCR that saves you time when charting. The next tab is a fun one. This is the Notes tab. Think of this as a message board for every PCR. The Notes section is where crew members, QA admins, billing associates, and so on can discuss the PCR, all within CloudPCR's HIPAA-secure platform. You can even @symbol different users, and depending on the agency settings, they'll get an email or a text message notification to log into the platform and join the discussion. One thing you should know is, notes in the Notes section are not part of the official record. Another feature that makes CloudPCR simple and convenient to use. Now that we covered the actual PCR, let's talk about our real-time validation engine. Do you see that red circle with an exclamation mark at the top of the screen? It means that there are still errors in your PCR you have to fix before submitting. Click on the validation icon to show your errors. Required fields can be tricky. I'm sure you've had trouble at one point or another finding an error in your PCR. So watch this. Quickly navigate to the field that is causing the error by clicking on the error message. As you can see, this will navigate to the page, scroll down, and even highlight it for you. This makes navigating the chart to fix any errors as easy as 1, 2, 3. With the validations now resolved, we're ready to submit our PCR. To submit the PCR, click on the gear icon in the upper right corner and select Submit PCR. Once you've submitted your PCR, a dialog box will appear so you can fax it to the hospital. If this is a hospital in your destination list, the fax number will be autofilled. Free digital faxing is included in CloudPCR. Once a PCR has been submitted, it gets locked and resides in the Locked PCRs section on My PCRs. There are multiple workflows that determine what happens to a PCR after you lock it. That can be found in the Workflows section under Administration. Now that you're familiar with the form, let's show you how to edit it with our Form Config Edit menu. Welcome to Form Config. This menu is accessible by all admins. What you'll notice is this looks just like the form, and the reason why it looks just like the form is so you can find what you need. Simply click the edit buttons and get on with your day. Say goodbye to arbitrary field names, coding, and complicated database binding. At the top, you select the form you want to review from the Disposition/Outcome dropdown, just like the PCR form. All the red fields you see are required. All the blue fields you see are hidden from the form. Anything you see already filled out on this screen is an active default, which means it'll be auto-filled when a crew member selects this disposition on a new form. Ready to dig into customizations? Okay, let's talk about managing fields. See this gear icon next to response number? This opens Field Edit menu for response number for all of your dispositions. As you can see, all of your dispositions are listed on your left-hand side, and you can select for each disposition whether response number is required, hidden, or assign an active default. To make it easy for global changes, there are Select All options at the bottom. This is a big feature that makes CloudPCR customizable for any agency. Let me show you another feature that makes CloudPCR customizable for any agency. Let's look at Managing drop-down options. See that icon next to CMS level that looks like a flag? This is the drop-down editor for CMS level. Here is where you'll see your Nemesis options. If the field was based on ICD-10 codes, you would see that in this view as well. Few agencies need every Nemesis option. For instance, do you have a fixed-wing aircraft? Okay, well you don't have to look at that anymore if you click the trash can icon. To add a new option, just click the plus button. Let's pause for a second and talk about Nemesis. Most PCR platforms are limited to the exact Nemesis codes. Now, I've heard that sometimes Nemesis codes can be vague. So, if you need a more specific option than what Nemesis has, you can add a duplicate of that option and change the title to what you want to see in the report. Another feature that makes CloudPCR customizable for any agency. As you can see, you have a lot of power in this Form Config menu. We've only spent 5 minutes in here, and you could be like a CloudPCR developer now. If that scares you, don't worry. Your personal EMS liaison will be assisting you in the account setup process. Let's head back to My PCRs. See that pop-up box? This handy feature provides a permission-based video training curriculum for every user. As the admin, you can track who is logged in, what videos they've watched, and whether they've tested the PCR form. This is a great way to make sure every member of your team is up to speed on the platform. While we're on My PCRs, do you see that Actions button on each PCR? With the Actions button, you can edit, clone, view, print, download, or fax a PCR. You can view the history of changes, as well as who made those changes, or create a shareable link to the PCR. Clone is a handy tool for minor car accidents. Once you set up the first patient's PCR and the incident details, you can clone that PCR multiple times for the rest of the passengers. Yet another CloudPCR feature that makes us easy to use. Now let's look at how PCRs are quality inspected. This is where PCRs are quality assured by QA admins. The grid is defaulted to show the last 30 days of PCRs. This screen also has an Actions button. In addition to what you saw on My PCRs page, on this page's Actions menu, you can add a note, change the status, delete, or flag a PCR with issues. Once you've flagged a PCR for issues, a number of things happen. The PCR gets placed into a special QA issues grid on the QA PCRs page, as well as at that user's My PCRs page, which makes it very hard to forget flagged PCRs. The user will receive a text or email notification that his PCR has been flagged by QA with a link encouraging them to correct the issues. The QA admin also has the ability to embed a to-do list for correcting the PCR, visible in the wrench icon in the top of the PCR edit view. Next, let's talk about the QA grid you see here. At the top of the grid, you'll see options to search, sort, and filter based on that column's information. In the middle right of the screen, you'll see a global search that searches across all columns. Let me show you another set of features that make CloudPCR customizable for any agency. Any QA admin can have their own customized QA screen. This is supported by drag and drop functionality. Click and drag any column header to move it around the grid. Right next to the global search is the Column Chooser button. This opens up a tray with other columns that you can drag and drop into the grid. Group PCRs by column information by dragging them into the area above the grid. Finally, once you get your QA admin view the way you want it, click the Save QA Filters button in the upper right to keep this view next time you return to QA PCRs. Need to quickly handle multiple PCRs at once? Click on the Batch Actions button in the upper right corner to export PCRs or batch change statuses. PCR export formats include PCR, PDFs, NEMSIS XML, and other billing software upload formats. In addition, if you need a quick shareable report for your recent PCRs, using the button next to Column Chooser, you can export an Excel document that will keep your filtering, sorting, and groupings. Next, we're going to talk about grid reporting. This is where you can create custom reports like PCRs per month, or year, or response times. As you can see, grid reporting has a lot of the same functionality as QA PCRs. However, there are differences. The Column Chooser has way more to choose from. The grid has all of the same functionality as QA PCRs. However, you can create a filter in addition to the grid options. With this feature, you need a specific report and can put it in a sentence. You can build that report in a matter of minutes. See how I'm able to select fields from the PCR here? Check out how I'm able to select the filter type here. And can add other fields from the PCR. You can even add multiple conditions on the same field. I can add a new set of rules, even values I don't want in the query. Then, if you need to share this report, you can do so by clicking the Export to Excel button. We also support the ability to save customized grid reports, yet another group of features that make CloudPCR customizable for any agency. Well, that's all for today. Thanks for joining us. To test drive a demo account yourself, go to cloudpcr.net and fill out the trial form. Have a good day.